It's a Bitcoin podcast. The only one that's making your money is you. Listen to the Bitcoin podcast. So hold on and listen to the Bitcoin podcast.
And hello, audience. Welcome back to another the Bitcoin podcast interview. Today we have a special guest here from debridge. How you doing, Alex?
Doing well.
We
Thanks
have
for having me here.
Alex Smirnov from debridge.finance, debridge protocol, co-founder, long-time crypto enthusiast, builder, participant, all of the above, but I don't want to introduce you when you probably do a better job introducing yourself. So, Alex, meet our audience. Audience, meet Alex. Alex, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm co-founder of debridge.finance, which is a cross-chain interoperability and liquidity transfer protocol. What we are building is actually the decentralized infrastructure that allows to transfer any arbitrary liquidity and data between various blockchain ecosystems. And it's supposed to be infrastructure that will be used by developers and by protocols to scale into other blockchain ecosystems and to make protocols composable cross-chain. That's what we're building.
Quite a difficult task you have ahead of you, my friend. How do you? Okay, so there's so many places to go off the bat. So chain interoperability. It always to me it seems like a unicorn. Like, I mean, I've been hearing these words for years, and it's not exactly easy yet, for at least for the user. It's getting better, but how does debridge? Sorry, I don't know how to make an accent. The bridge, man.
Both times are fine.
How does debridge, plan to make that a little bit easier for everybody?
Yeah, so we can get started from like the general discussion about the multi-chain world, right? Because there are many talks that we are approaching like multi-chain future, but in fact we already live in a multi-chain world with more than 100 blockchains publicly available. And the main problem here is that all those blockchains are not well interconnected with each other or interconnected through some customized channels, and all those like bridges are different from one blockchain to another, and the user experience is not really best one, because users need to do their like due diligence. They need to go from one interface to another in order to bridge assets between blockchains. And it's been very difficult, and by far we don't have any unified standard for cross-chain interoperability. And that's what we actually are trying to solve here, to solve liquidity fragmentation, like technology fragmentation. And it's like fragmentation of the entire ecosystem. And we'll see how the future will be, but I feel like that in the nearest future, next year already, we'll have so many cross-chain applications and projects which will start to quickly evolve. And I'm more excited about composability of the protocols, so that protocols in one blockchain can be plugged in or can communicate with the protocols from other blockchain ecosystems.
So I'm going to describe most bridges today, or at least up till today. And I would then like to know how you differentiate from that. And it's mostly, we'll go from chain A to chain B. We're not going to care which chains they are for now. And there's a smart contract on chain A or an address, and I push money into that from chain A. There is infrastructure somewhere in the middle that monitors the smart contract, that holds the keys associated with doing things with that pool of money, that sees it, verifies that I sent money to it, and then on chain B, mints new tokens, and then gives them to me on that token on that chain. I want to go back. I then send back to that bridge. It destroys those tokens, maybe, and then gives them back to me on chain A. The infrastructure is in between that's doing that monitoring is usually controlled by a multi-sig of multiple keys that have to agree on these things that distributes the trust in a myriad of ways, right? So like the trustiness of that bridge is basically how many people are watching and verifying this particular thing, or what cryptography is used. Like if you think about like Intel SGX in the form of Avalanche's bridge, it distributes that trust through a bunch of Intel SGX parties and keys in them. What are you doing different?
You described pretty well one of the possible approaches on how bridges can be built, and we are actually working in the same manner, but the infrastructure layer is designed differently. So debridge protocol is represented by two layers. There is a protocol layer, which is the set of smart contracts in every blockchain that we support, and there is infrastructure layer, which is represented by the set of validators who are elected by debridge governance. The main difference between multi-sig and validators is that in our case, validators are financially liable for the service that they provide, because we have staking and delegated staking and slashing mechanics. So for example, if some validator censors some transactions, or if he validates some fake transaction and somebody has financial loss due to validators misbehavior, he will be compensated from the amount slashed from validators. And the protocol itself takes the small fee from each transfer, which is 10 base points, like 0.1%, and half of all fees goes to validators and those who delegate liquidity for them. And by this design, we have like closed loop economy, because the more liquidity is passing through the protocol, the more users will delegate liquidity for validators in order to participate in reward sharing. And yeah, the more liquidity will be in place, the more TVL, the more collateral of the protocol we will have. And as a collateral, several assets can be staked. So it's not like our own token, because we don't have token right now, but it will be USDT and ETH, those assets that can be staked for validators. And for example, if something goes wrong with the token price, the collateral of validators will be still the same, since we have like stablecoin component as USDT, and we have ETH as the most liquid asset. And potentially, when we will have our own token, governance token in place, and when we will pass control over the protocol to governance, I believe that governance will add like our asset, the third asset that can be staked for validators. And that's quite a unique approach, I think, because most like proof of stake algorithms assume that you stake the native asset of the protocol, right? In our case, we allow to stake different assets. And moreover, we have quite unique design, because the asset that you stake for validator, you can also supply it to other DeFi strategies and protocols that are whitelisted by governance. So let's say you already farm or supply liquidity into Aave, and you get some APY from Aave. But now you can supply liquidity into Aave through debridge, through delegated staking smart contract. And on top of Aave APY, you will also receive the debridge validators APY. And that's actually a good example of composability of protocols as well.
That's definitely a additional feature for doing bridge validation that I don't think I'm aware of existing anywhere else, is participating in other DeFi protocol, like providing liquidity for other DeFi protocols. My next question, well, there's two, I guess, that I have directly from what you just said, is half of the fees go to validators. Where are the other half going?
Another half goes to protocol treasury.
And that's just a discretionary fund for development of the underlying protocol and paying people who work on it?
Exactly. Yes, we don't have any kind of reward distribution. It just goes directly to treasury, and governance will decide on how to use those funds. I guess there will be insurance for like additional safety of the protocol, and the part of funds can go to ecosystem development. Potentially, in the long term, it might be used in order to merge and acquire other protocols and projects. But yeah, it will be up to governance to decide on how the treasure part should be
The
used.
next question is somewhat of a more complicated one. If I'm providing a bridge between chain A and chain B, I'm like, if I'm running that infrastructure, I need to know what's happening on chain A and chain B at all times, meaning that I need to run full nodes on those things, which can get pretty costly in terms of computational resources. I at least need to do those two things. Then I need to run whatever work of the underlying infrastructure for dealing with bridging. What does that look like? How have you seen that grow? And like, what's the on-ramping cost for doing that? And that's going to be differentiated across the various chains that you allow within the network.
That's actually a good question. And for most bridges, the biggest cost is not the infrastructure, but validation of cross-chain transactions, because many bridges are designed in the way when validators need to broadcast transaction in the target chain to have it approved. debridge has a different design. All our validators are obliged to run a full node of every blockchain because they need to track events emitted by the smart contract. That's why all validators run their own infrastructure. I wouldn't say that it's like super expensive. It's just like running a full node, and it can be on different servers. And yeah, there are many options here, but we are working with professional validators and professional infrastructure providers, and they know how to do that in a really effective way. And for us, the most important part, the fault tolerance of the protocol. They just need to be sure that all nodes are constantly synced, and on top of node of each blockchain, there is a debridge node, which is quite lightweight, just tracks events in one blockchain. Then once transaction initiated by the user, once transaction achieved its finality, every validator signs unique transaction identifier with its private key, and the signature is stored into IPFS. And in debridge, validators do not need to broadcast any transactions. They're not dependent on the performance or uptime of any blockchain, because all signatures go directly to IPFS. And when user wants to trigger, like to execute transaction in the target chain, he just retrieves signatures from IPFS and passes them to smart contract. And if 2/3 of signatures are valid, then transaction is executed. And that's really good design, actually, because it allows to have unlimited throughput, which is way more than throughput of any blockchain that is supported by debridge. So off-chain validation is actually a cool feature, and I'm really happy about the design we got by far.
I've had some sketchy retrievability from IPFS in the past. How are you getting uploaded files on IPFS quality times for retrievability, or even like guaranteeing that they're going to stick around? Because like IPFS has no incentivization for keeping things around. Do you need to? And if so, are you doing it?
Yes, of course. IPFS itself does not guarantee that the data is persistent, right? For storing of data, we use OrbitDB, which is like database built on top of IPFS. And in order to make all databases persistent, we have a pinners. So pinner is basically like server that pins all databases of all validators. And the address, the hash of all OrbitDB databases of all validators are public. So anyone can launch a pinner and pin databases of validators. And actually, the data are distributed almost instantly in case you you have address of the validator added to your Bootstrap list, to list of your Bootstrap nodes.
Interesting. Okay.
Wait, so if I could like lame that up a little, like IPFS is working as kind of like an anchor, and then you've got these Orbit, you call it Orbit DBs databases that are providing more like real time information that they're pulling from IPFS. Is that kind of what I'm thinking about?
Yeah, OrbitDB is like solution to store data in a more effective way, so
Okay.
that you don't like access it like a file, but you more access it like a regular database. But this database is like decentralized, and all data stored there are publicly available. And if you want to have access to this data, you just add the address of OrbitDB to your pinner, and you'll be able to like retrieve all new recourse in almost in real time. It's like very
Nice.
very quick.
So
really neat.
that's neat. It's a little finesse. I like it, Alex. How do you so I got a question. Who are the validators? How many of them are there? And how they get to that point?
Yeah, good question. So the initial set of validator is assigned by our team, by Foundation, because we don't have governance yet. We don't have token. We just need to bootstrap the protocol. That's why we strive to work with validators who have name and a good reputation in the industry. And by far, we got 11, 13 actually. I just checked in our Explorer on our website. We have like this special tab, validators tab, and we have 13 validators like Anchor, Beware, Everstake. We have our own node as well, just one node, debridge. We also have Hashquark, MGNR, StakeDAO, Staked, Staking. So yeah, those are entities specialized on infrastructure provision, and they also validators in many other blockchain protocols. And we strive to be very transparent. So basically in our Explorer, we show like the performance and stats of all the validators. And I think once we have governance, it will be even more important, because governance will rotate validators based on their performance. We really strive to differentiate the governance layer and validators layer, because validators are working for governance, and they should not influence governance decision, I believe. And in case something wrong with validator, or in case his collateral is too low, validator can be easily replaced by governance by another candidate. And yeah, we start from 13. I think in mainnet we'll have 11, but that's just to bootstrap the protocol. Later on, we plan to add more validators and to scale up infrastructure and like support more chains and add more validators as well.
Nice.
I'm looking at your validators tab, and it's everything's on testnet right now, correct?
Yes, right now everything is on testnet, and we released our second version of testnet at the beginning of November. We got some really good traction that, to be honest, exceeded my expectations. So we got almost 29,000 of unique users and 128,000 of cross-chain transactions. So those are real transactions that like processed by the protocol. And yeah, anyone can try it out and send some transaction. Right now we support 5 event chains, including layer 2s like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Hobby, EchoChain, Polygon, and Arbitrum. But eventually we plan to interconnect all blockchain ecosystems. We actively work on Solana, and Solana will be the first non-event blockchain that we support. And yeah, we also receive grants from Solana and Polygon ecosystems.
Nice.
Those grants are getting thrown out everywhere these days. So, like,
How
how the hell are you running a BSC node?
In the testnet, it's quite straightforward.
Okay,
There are not
testnet,
so
because
many
the mainnet is not
transactions.
so straightforward.
Yeah, it's more a pain for validators, and they have to figure out how to run it. And probably you saw that GitHub issue where everyone were discussing like what's going on with Binance Smart Chain, why it's not so transparent, why there are so many issues. But yeah, it's still there's some complication there for sure, and I think that we have a need of like communication channel between validators of a Binance Smart Chain, so that they can share their expertise and like what kind of hardware should everyone have in order to achieve good level of fault tolerance for infrastructure.
I see services like this as providing a separate but additional community for hardening how to become a validator on various networks, right? So like someone who is a validator on your network is running multiple chains simultaneously to a certain threshold of quality. Like they have to be good enough, otherwise they're not going to be able to support cross-chain interaction. I can see that rising the tide across the whole ecosystem of what it takes, the quality of a given node for running validation services. And maybe one benefit of one network starting to bleed into another because, hey, they do it over here this way, it works really well, let's do it over here too. Have you like, are you able to like
best
see
practices?
any of that? Yeah, see any of that from like the validation pools that you're cultivating here?
I think in case there is any problem, hi Jesse.
What's up, Jess?
Yo, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can.
Jesse meet Alex. Alex meet Jesse.
Alex.
Nice to meet you. I like your background.
Oh, thanks, dude. I like food.
That's an NFT. Do you want it? Alex is for sale actually for 500,000 ETH.
Is it listed at OpenSea?
I don't know. I think Banksy kissed it though. So
it's hosted not on AWS.
No, I'm kidding. I don't know anything about it. Jesse knows about it though. Sorry, Corey. What's your question? Because Jesse came in here like the Kool-Aid.
Derailed it. I'll repeat it for Jesse.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
Like since like people within your network are running multiple validators, have you seen kind of like this slow emergent process of best practices in validation across different nodes?
Yeah, I can say that in general, I see that some validators are performing better. Some validators do not care that much about infrastructure. We just have certain like process on how validators get from testnet to mainnet, and in mainnet, like any failure of validator will lead to slashing. So I guess validators will be more responsible, you know.
What happens if a chain goes down, right? Like if one of the mainnet chains goes down and it's not a validation problem, or like there's some bug that affects only a certain amount of validators, how does that impact the economics of your network and their ability to perform cross-chain transactions on it?
So debridge does not depend on any blockchain, since we have off-chain validation, signatures are stored in IPFS. So if in case some blockchain goes offline entirely, we can't influence that. So it's like the problem of specific blockchain, the problem of users who decided to move liquidity into that blockchain ecosystems. Because when you bridge liquidity to some blockchain, you actually take the risk of consensus algorithm, of the code base, of the ecosystem in general, right? And in case the blockchain went offline and the validators like do not have anything to do with that, I mean, it's not because of validator, but because of the blockchain node design. Then we don't slash validators, of course. It's just like the matter of figuring out like what happened, how we can get the blockchain back online, etc. But in case blockchain went offline because like validator did not spend time to update his like open Ethereum client to a new version, then it's a fault of validator. And if validator is not able to fix the problem quickly, like within 12, 24 hours, then I think that slashing will be reasonable in this case. But governance will decide per each specific case. I mean, if several validators will go offline, it won't influence the performance of the protocol. But in case like 1/3 of validators will go offline simultaneously, that can be a problem. And if some users had their transaction stuck due to validator's failure, he'll be compensated from the amount slashed. That's
I'm seeing like there's like it looks like 3 of their 13 validators are like significantly behind in their ability to perform their network. So like they may be getting slashed, but the actual end user experience from a user isn't hindered because the other ones can pick that up. Is that right?
Exactly. So in general, like speed of transaction of cross-chain transaction depends only on finality of the transaction in the chain where it's originated. The longest transaction are those that are initiated in Ethereum, because we need to wait for like 11 block confirmations. But once we have finality, then transaction can be instantly processed in the target blockchain. Yeah, but if there is a problem with validation layer here, and the user cannot like accomplish his transaction within like 5 minutes term, then he can apply for compensation, I think, because in this case there was the problem with infrastructure layer, and because we care a lot about delivery of the messages, one case when you just breach liquidity, but there can be like more sophisticated scenarios when, for example, I breach price feeds from Solana to let's say Polygon, and in Solana finality is like half a second, right? And if I breach some price feeds, I want to have it like in really quick manner in another chain. And if something went wrong and our validators can't validate transaction, then this price feed is not delivered. That can lead to like, I don't know, like millions of dollars liquidation in some protocol. And of course, it's very serious. Like infrastructure should be very stable. The downtime, there shouldn't be any downtime actually. In case there is some problem, it should be like the minimal. The pauses should be minimal, and it shouldn't be due to validators. And getting back to the process of validators onboarding, we have a several structure. First of all, we connect validator without whitelisting public addresses. So it's like signaling validation. We just measure performance of every validator, average delay, number of missed transaction, and if performance is really good enough and satisfy our expectation, then we add validator's public address to the smart contract. Since then it starts to be like active validator of the ecosystem, and if he performs well within like 1 month in testnet, then validator can be nominated as an active delegate, as an active validator in the mainnet, and governance will see his performance, his like signaling performance and the real performance in testnet, and vote based on that. So it's like the entire onboarding process. Though right now we're like onboarding validators to bootstrap the protocol, we'll have quite strict criteria on who can join the infrastructure.
Nice. Let's reel it back a little bit. We've been in the weeds, we're mucking about in the weeds, plucking the ones we don't want, sprucing the ones we like. Let's reel it all back. So you, Alex, you're a co-founder, so you have another co-founder. What sparked the idea? You're sitting around, not drinking Smirnov, because I know you don't like vodka, but you're drinking a cab sav, right? And you're like, we need to make debridge. I'm gonna keep with the Jamaican accent because I'm just gonna keep it going. We're gonna make it. Why? What sparked you guys to have that idea? Because you were toiling around in crypto for a while. It had to be like, good night, good Friday night. And you're like, fuck it, we're going to do it.
Yeah, and my co-founder Yaroslav, we were running Phenom, the blockchain development agency. And we developed various blockchain connected solutions and decentralized applications. We won many hackathons, and like debridge started from the hackathon as well. But last year, we were involved in a cross-chain arbitrage and like yield farming strategies. And we had many situations when our funds got stuck in bridges or got frozen by exchanges with different requests for like proof of source of funds, etc. Because exchanges do not like when you do frequent deposits and withdrawals. Like arbitrage is their market, and they do not encourage when you're trying to do the same thing, And at some point, like, we decided we need to solve this problem in a truly decentralized way. We need to develop like the fully trustless protocol that will allow to perform cross-chain transfers of liquidity. And we had this idea in mind for quite some time, even though we were like busy with developing and like Degen farming and other stuff. At the beginning of this year, we
fully degenerate. Go ahead.
yeah, at the beginning of this year, we found out about the Chainlink Global Hackathon, and we like to have fun. We like to build, and we decided to sign up for the hackathon. And it was like it was quite challenging because like more than 150 teams participate all over the world. And surprisingly, we won the hackathon. We got the grand prize, the first place, and we got an MVP that we built like within several weeks. And after winning the challenge hackathon, we got so many requests from like VCs and partners, like ecosystem, that we realized that debridge is getting like very serious. And we just switched entire focus to debridge. And since March, we are like building 24/7 in order to deliver the cross-chain interoperability protocol, which will be used hopefully by many developers and projects that want to go cross-chain. And yeah, that's how we came up with the idea. I can also share some insights on our progress by far. So we did a fundraising. We raised like $5.5 million round from some really exceptional partners. The round was
Congrats.
led by Parafy, thanks. And with many more good partners on board, like Cryptocom, Hobby Ventures, Lemniscap, MGNR, and yeah, we get like more than 35 investors on board. And yeah, now we're actively pushing everything toward the mainnet launch, but the main focus has been security, of course, especially taking into account all those cross-chain hacks. And yeah, we pay a lot of attention to security. Like, we have two security audit partners, Halbor and Sokio. We'll be listed at Immunify, bug bounty platform, and security has been the main priority. And we are like very paranoid about it. We don't want to rush things, and that's why we are not live on the mainnet yet. We want to get to 11 when we are super comfortable, when we understand that infrastructure is reliable, and we want to deliver a really great experience for users and protocols.
I like it. I like that
Degen to debridge. That should be like your
Yeah.
slogan.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, how we
like your
started,
origin story, like
Yeah.
the start of your origin story.
how it's going.
Let me know if you need a
Yeah.
jingle. I make those. I'll get you set up. I like that you've built as long as you have in this space, and you seem like have such a bright demeanor, because damn, this space is like it moves so fast. It's like 1 year in crypto is like 4 years in regular. And yeah, my hat's off to you. So another thing, let's get some more feel good up in the audience, up in the ether. What metric do you measure that you're most proud that you've crossed, right? What metric do you measure? Maybe it doesn't have to be like an internal measurement, but like something that your team looks at and the people that are using the debridge look at, and the one that you're proud of, something that you crossed.
You mean metric of the protocol?
Sure, like whether it's total value locked, whether it's, I don't know, transactions per second. I
Zero
don't
now.
know.
It's on testnets. So.
Well,
Yeah, we're not live yet.
Number of
But there are
validators,
many.
number of so there's got to be something where you're like, yeah, man, we're really kicking ass. Like, what number is that?
I would say that like we exceeded 100,000 of cross-chain transactions that pass through the protocol, even though it's on testnet. But that's the metric we're really proud of, because like we see real users, and those not like users who expect retroactive airdrop. We just like analyze also the traffic on the website in a Cloudflare, and we see that it's the demand is growing, and those like 28,000 users who interacted with the protocol, those are real. Like, it's not like bots or scripts who just just sending transactions, but those are users who interacted through the web. And we like one day it was really surprising, because like initially 1 week after the launch, we have only 3,000 unique users. And I participated in the Solana Breakpoint conference in Lisbon, and I had like a presentation, a panel session about the bridges. And right after the panel session, we got like 12,000 unique users within 24 hours. And that was really exciting. Like I woke up and like Yaroslav, our CTO, is saying like, oh God, since we have DDoS attack on the protocol, like let's see what's going on here.
A real one.
And
Yeah.
we started, I even tweeted like that we have a DDoS, but then we started to analyze the web traffic and like requests to Infura, and we got that those are like real users. And that was quite exciting moment because we saw that like users are getting in and we are gathering some good feedback in Discord and Telegram channels. And yeah, it's like I'm super excited. And one of the latest events that happened, like yesterday, the professor from my university that like taught me 8 years ago, he texted me on Facebook and saying like, look, I tested out your protocol and like I'm active community member on Discord. Like
That's awesome.
and he asked me like to do elections for students in university. So yeah, it was super cool, because like even professor from your university like somehow tried your protocol, like found out about the protocol, and that's super cool.
Nice, man. Congratulations. Did you tell him the student becomes the teacher? Is that what you said?
Charge him.
No, I didn't tell that, but yeah, I can teach like DeFi, but I'm not good as a teacher.
She said,
I don't
"Remember my
like to
tuition?
explain twice.
I'd like a rebate on my tuition, sir. Like your teaching's paid off. I'd like my money back." No. Well, Jesse, you got anything you want to throw out?
No, I think I came in at the tail end. Some of those questions are pretty good.
Oh, you got something you want to throw at him?
Oh yeah. So, is what you do actually difficult? And that can be interpreted any way that you want it to be.
Yeah, I can say that building of bridges is truly difficult because there are many components involved. Like you depend on the security of blockchain protocols, you depend on security of infrastructure, and there are many things that like the puzzle is so complicated and you need to assemble it in the best manner. And in general, like building in crypto is very complicated because it's a matter of security. If you're building a DeFi protocol, you need to keep in mind that like potentially there can be like dozens of millions of dollars or hundreds that are locked as a TVL in your protocol, and like you have bad nights, you're thinking about it. You need to find good security auditors. That is quite difficult because like all good companies are like in big demand and everyone is overwhelmed in the industry, and yeah, things are getting complicated. It's just you need to like steadily, step by step, move toward your goal and take into account many aspects, and luck is quite important here as well.
I like it. I like the realness of it. A lot of luck. Is it building a puzzle where the puzzle piece changes shape, orientation, and maybe color randomly?
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome.
And
So impossible then.
you need to assemble, you need to find those pieces in like different
When you put one in
parts
wrong and it changes, someone loses $1 million.
So the world's hardest puzzle of all time, is that what?
Yeah, this puzzle might be super expensive actually.
I like how I like your answer to Jesse could have just been yes, absolutely. And then you could, I guess we'll also wrap it up with our other trademark question here, and we'll throw a curveball. In 10 words or less, can you describe interoperability?
Sure. Interoperability is a great user experience, I would say.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Here's the box.
Okay.
Alex is out here, outside of the box. Okay. I like it.
I can elaborate actually, but yeah, it's all about user experience because users do not need to care about like how technology is working. They just need to go to their wallet or to like website aggregator and perform the cross-chain action they want to to have, like when we are using internet, we don't care how TCP/IP is working. When we have cross-chain interoperability, we don't need to care how bridges are working, right? That's what we are trying to achieve at least.
All right, Corey, what about yours?
I don't have one.
Yeah, you do. I'm gonna ask Corey's trademark question. Is there anything that you hoped that we
didn't
had
realize that
asked
was my question.
that we did? You made it. It was a good question. You were proud about it.
Okay.
It was the whole thing. Is there anything that you hoped that we would have asked that we didn't?
Is it question already, or I think
it's a question. It's like, maybe you were like, man, I really hope they ask me about this so I can knock this question out of the ballpark, and we just didn't ask you. Or are you good? Are you good to go with this interview?
I don't know. Like, you can ask anything.
Okay. Well,
I actually have another question just to wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have another question. That
there we go.
It came from the interview's going a little bit longer. So you're collecting a bunch of data and you're looking at the traffic from a bunch of different blockchains, and you're seeing, I would imagine you're seeing a lot of trends. What type of trends are you seeing, and how are you monitoring this traffic, and what do you plan to do with it? Is this like, this is a completely different type of information that's difficult to obtain unless you're doing a service like yours. Have you thought about that at all?
I think the main trend here that we are getting more and more blockchains and layer 2s, and we will have even more in the nearest future. And I personally think that we need to have a freedom. We need to give freedom to users and protocols to move between those blockchains. So it's like, just imagine that, like, we live a world with many countries, right? So blockchain world and blockchains is like countries. And our goal here is to like build infrastructure and like bridges between those countries so that users and protocols can travel without passports, or maybe without visas, with the minimal bureaucracy. And yeah, we provide a framework, and we want users to be able to easily pick the place where they want to live. And yeah, that's the main trend. We'll be getting more layer 2s. Like, there is a Neon, which is a layer 2 on Solana. There is Aurora, layer 2 on Aurora, on Near, and there will be more. But it's really exciting because ecosystems are evolving so fast, and I guess there will be many options for users and protocols to decide what ecosystem should be used.
I think Alex, my question is, it might open a bottle or open a can of more questions, but like, if you can kind of condense like your answer, is like, where's the line delineating over engineering for what you're trying to build? Like, where you sacrifice a little bit of the ideals in for the, like, at the expense of a better user experience.
What would I sacrifice?
Yeah.
In regards to technology or bridging, or
yeah, I guess in regards to the product that you're developing, like, you know how like different chains, they sacrifice, centralization for or decentralization for speed. In some cases, they make trade-offs, right? Like, so what trade-offs, do you make? Are you willing to make, like, for debridge, at the sake of, like, getting mass user adoption, having a really good user experience?
I think we found a perfect balance. Actually, there is like a good article which is called Interoperability Trilemma, which was developed by guys from Connext, and like, bridges need to find the balance between like security, decentralization, and like finality. And it's quite complicated because you need to sacrifice something. I think in debridge we managed to find some like perfect balance, because it's fully trustless, fully decentralized, but the protocol is insured. And even if you'll have, like, if the collateral of the protocol validators will will not be big enough, you'll be able to influence on that. We'll be able to, for example, implement liquidity incentives so that more users will stake for validators and collateral will be highly correlated with the TVL. I don't think we sacrificed anything. We never sacrificed security, but we try to have like the best user experience. Yeah, that's the point.
Cool.
All right. Well, Alex, thank you very much for your time. And thank you for coming on the Bitcoin podcast, man. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for inviting me. Really great to meet you guys, and excited to be here. And yeah, let's keep in touch. And
Cool.
thank you so much.
Hang out backstage for a sec. You'll talk about wine. No, I'm kidding.